Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Here is part 3 of today's class, and this will be part 1 of reviewing Chapter 39, Incident Management. I'm going to try to get everything done within one video, which should be between 30 and about 35 minutes. I believe you guys have already gone through these 2 chapters, so these are going to be very quick reviews. So incident management or National Incident Management System. Okay, I'm going to be doing a quick review with the slides. There's about 140 slides. Out of the 140 slides, about 84 of them are going to review the chapter, and then the remaining 60 will be questions that I'll go through very quickly. Okay. If at any point in time you guys ever have any questions, please provide them. Send them over to your teacher. She can print them out, and then she can forward those questions on to us, and then I can answer them in a Q&A question on a recording if you guys would like to. Okay, so let's get to this really quick. National Incident Management System, implemented in 2004. It provides a framework for all other incident management systems throughout the country, whether it be city, local, state. It enables federal, state, and local governments to work together, as we're supposed to, and as well as private sector and non-government organizations to work together as private sectors, and also how the private sector would work with government agencies as well. Okay? Let's see. Disasters and mass casualty incidents, MCIs, mass casualty incident, can be very overwhelming. A mass casualty is defined as when you have 3 or more patients and you have a lack of resources. So long story short, technically, a mass casualty would be if it's you and your partner and you have 3 patients, you take care of 1 patient, your partner takes care of the other patient, the 3rd patient we really can't take care of, that's a mass casualty, technically. Okay? And you have lack of resources. You need 3 EMTs, 3 patients, 3 EMTs, you only got 2. Boom, mass casualty. Okay, incident command system makes it possible to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. The incident command system, without giving you the fancy book definition and the pecking order of all the different levels of people and all these different positions and all this stuff, it is a group of people who come together, and each person has an area of specialty. One person deals with EMS. One person deals with fire. One person deals with police. One person deals with security. Another person would deal with transportation. Who goes where? Keeping track of what patients go where and who took them. Another person would deal with logistics, resource management. How many fire trucks do we need? How many ladders? How many pumpers? How many ambulances? How many paramedics do we need? How many hospitals are we going to use? And then a person who specializes in communications. How are we going to communicate to all the hospitals that we're going to have 250 patients from this plane that crashed at T.F. Green Airport, and they're all alive, but they all need to go to the hospital? We need to divvy all these people up so one hospital can't take 250 people at once. You have to notify the hospitals. Well, how do the hospitals get notified? You just call them up and say, hey, this is Joe from Warwick. We're sending you 35 patients from a plane crash. That's not the way it happens. There's a certain way that the state is notified, and the state has books and step-by-step directions on who gets notified when, how, and where the staging areas are set up. There's certain areas around T.F. Green Airport that are for police, fire, and EMS to go. Fire goes in this area, EMS goes in another, and a person records who's there. Warwick sent how many fire trucks, how many did Providence send, how many did North Providence send, how many did Westerly send. Records everybody who's there and where they're from. So the general incident commander, the general or the president of the organization, person who's in charge of the entire situation, they have all these resources, and they have assistants who communicates with these people in charge of these areas of specialty. So it's everybody who's in charge of organizing, controlling, accessing, and using all the resources that are going to be used in a mass casualty situation. Anything you possibly think of, traffic, and everything else I talked about. And then the hospitals are notified. Then the hospitals have a certain way of notifying all the employees. You're going to get a plane that crashed with 250 people, and they all survived at T.F. Green Airport. They're going to use every single hospital in the state, and even up in Massachusetts. So they're going to have light flights come down from New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, up from Connecticut, up from Virginia. Okay, and they're all going to be needing to be coordinated as to where they're going to go. So once the hospitals are notified, the hospital notifies their staff. There's a certain way that they notify them via massive email, via massive phone dialing. They call everybody at the same time through auto dialers and stuff like that. And the news is going to be notified as well. That's the best way to get hold of all the caretakers that work at all the hospitals. Hey, massive plane crash. If you work at Rhode Island Hospital, Miriam Hospital, Westerly Hospital, all that, report to work if you can. Okay, we're going to need you. So there's a way of doing all this stuff. Okay, so that's an incident command system consists of all those people and all those resources and getting them all coordinated so everybody works together in a unified, organized way to maximize treatment for the patients and maximize control of the situation and of the scene. I hope I didn't confuse you guys. National Incident Management System. From here on, I'm going to call it NIMS, N-I-M-S. The NIMS promotes efficient coordination of emergency incidents at the regional, state, and national level. It's going to work like this, or I have to go like this? Let's see if I can do something like this first. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Okay. Sometimes the NIMS is the Incident Command System is sometimes referred to as the Incident Management System. The purpose of the Incident Command System is to ensure responder and public safety, achieve incident management goals, which is take care of every single patient in a safe way, and to ensure the efficient use of any and all resources. Make sure they're being used to their maximum capability. Incident Command System also controls duplication of effort and freeloading. If it gets some guys who wants to come in, they want to try to take advantage of the situation, they're supposed to be able to catch it and take care of that person or persons. It limits the span of control of one person, so they just stay in their area of specialty. And the organizational levels include sections of branches, divisions, and groups. So we start with big groups and breaks it down. Sort of like how the military does with their divisions, their platoons, and their individual, and then breaks it down to smaller and smaller groups, into more manageable groups. Okay? And with each group, you got one person in charge. Incident command consists of operations, planning, logistics, finance, and all those other things I told you about. It consists of a lot of different individual groups. They've got roles and responsibilities from who's taking command of certain areas, how does it get financed, the logistics of it, how does it operate, how does it actually work, who puts the planning of it together, and who's actually going to be in charge of those areas or those groups, the command staff. Let's see. Command is the incident commander, IC. That person is in charge of the overall incident. Usually, in this case, what we'll see is if you've got a big fire in an abandoned warehouse, you're going to have an incident commander. That's usually going to be the fire chief of the town where the fire is taking place. And you might have some other fire chiefs from surrounding towns who are supplying mutual aid that'll come in and they'll assist. But they'll go to the incident commander and say, okay, I got fire trucks. Where do you want them? What do you want us to do? And the IC will tell them what to do. It's important to know who the IC is, how to communicate with the IC, and when and where the command post is located. An IC may transfer command to someone with more experience in a critical area. So if this person has a lot of experience in fires, as a fire chief, great. But what about if there's chemicals, or what if it's not a fire and it's a lost child? You might have somebody who has a lot of experience in searching the wilderness for lost people, so the fire chief or the police chief would share or release command of the IC position to that person who has more experience in search and recovery. If it's a person out in the water, Local fire and police might take their small boats out there, but if it's in a larger body of water, like off the shores of the U.S., or it might be in a huge body of water, like say between Jamestown and Newport, where the Mount Hope Bridge is or something like that, or the Jamestown Bridge, they would hand it over to the Coast Guard. Okay, and the Coast Guard has a list of who handles what and how they do it. Okay, so those are examples of incident command transfer and why they would do it. Finance. The finance department is responsible for documenting all expenditures at the incident for reimbursement. There's been a couple times where I've been places where a local restaurant, like say a McDonald's, say, hey, you know what? We'll make 250 cheeseburgers for you guys. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And the town's going to pay for it. The town wants to get reimbursed. Okay. Or the restaurant wants to get reimbursed. Okay, we're going to make you 250 cheeseburgers. Who's going to pay us? So the finance department is responsible to make sure that stuff gets taken care of. Logistics. Responsible for communications, equipment, facilities, food and water, fuel, lighting, and medical equipment and supplies. All that stuff that's needed. If it's a nighttime search and rescue or if it's a nighttime operation, they might need a lot of lighting. So you're going to have units for producing large quantities of lighting. You might contact a construction company who have those portable lighting generators that they use on the highways when they're doing work on at night. They might say, "Hey, can we rent 10 of them from you? We need them right now." Okay, and then they expect to get paid for it. Operations. At a very large or complex incident, responsible for managing the tactical operations, usually handled by the IC, supervises the people working at the scene. The IC has to know who's there, why they're there, where they're working, and what their goal is accomplishing. What is their task, and are they accomplishing it, yes or no? Do they need extra manpower or not? Planning. Solves problems as they arise. Develops as an incident action plan. So you have a plan of what you want to do to take care of the situation, but you don't know everything. So as new problems or new situations arise, the planning department or the planning person tries to take care of those and takes the problem with solutions to the IC, and the IC says, yeah, that's a great idea. Well, we go with your resolution plan number 2. That sounds good to me. Command staff. Command staff consists of the safety officer who monitors the scenes for conditions and operations that may present a hazard. They make sure that you are working in a fairly safe environment, but if the environment starts to change, the safety officer says, you know what, come back here, pull back, you're too close to the building, or get out of that part of the building, it's getting ready to collapse. The public information officer provides the media with clear, understandable information as to what's going on. You're going to have one spokesperson for the fire department who's going to talk to the news media. So while the IC commander is taking care of the situation, of course, the media is going to be across the street taking pictures. They want to know what's going on. So it's going to have one person, the public information officer, who will come and will answer all the questions and tell the public what's going on. The liaison officer is the person who relays information and concerns among command, the general staff, and other agencies to other command staff and other agencies. Fire department talks with the police. Fire department of Massachusetts, who's dealing with a big fire in Fall River, they may have a liaison officer who talks with the fire chiefs who come in from surrounding towns to help out. Communications and information management. Communication has historically been the weakest point at most major incidents because they happen so quickly and there's so many people who are pouring in there to help. It's hard to rein everybody in to make sure everybody's on the same page. That's why they try to think of the towns, police and fire will try to think of, and the government will try to think of, we're trying to think of as many odd situations that can happen in their area and come up with plans of how to deal with it. And then if something like that happens, they just go to their filing cabinet and say, oh, massive warehouse fire. They pull that file out and it has a list of how they want to handle it, instead of trying to figure it out on the fly. Okay? It'll be much more effective if they have all this figured out, who they need, where they need, how to contact them, phone numbers, cell phone numbers, all that stuff, and things go much. It's being proactive. Okay? It's recommended that communications be integrated. All agents should be able to communicate quickly and effortlessly via the radios, everybody in the same channel. Or you've got 35 fire trucks. All the fire trucks should be on channel 6. All police should be on channel 5. All EMS should be on channel 8. And then if somebody from EMS needs to talk to the IC commander, you have the person in charge of EMS go on the fire channel and then talk directly with the incident commander to tell them what's going on. Okay? Communications allow for accountability and instant communications. Mobilization and deployment. Check with the incident commander when you arrive. Let them know you're there. Let them know who you are, what you are. You're an ambulance. You're an EMT. I'm a paramedic, and my partner's a basic. Report to your supervisor for initial briefing. They'll tell you what's going on. And record keeping allows for tracking of time spent with the actual incident for reimbursement purposes. If they bring in 10 ambulances from a private EMS and these guys transport numerous patients, the private ambulance, if possible, would like to get reimbursed so they can pay their employees. So that's why record keeping is important as well. You spend a dollar, you got to be able to explain where you spent the dollar and why you spent it. Accountability means keeping your supervisor advised of your location, actions, and completed tasks. You are accountable for your own actions. You are accountable for letting the people in charge of you know where you are so that if they're looking for you, they know where to look for you. If you're supposed to be on the north side of the building fighting a fire and you walk over to the east side and they need you, they're going to go to the north side. Hey, where's Joe? I don't know where Joe is. They're going to spend all that time looking for you. They find you over here. They're going to be pissed off because you're supposed to be over here. They wasted all this time trying to find you when that time could have been spent assigning you to a new task that's more important than you being over here. Okay? Once the incident has been stabilized, the IC will determine what resources are needed and which one can begin demobilization. I've got 35 fire trucks here. I only need 25. Everything's under control. These 10 fire trucks can go back home. And the IC will make that determination. Preparedness involves the decisions making and basic planning done before the incident occurs, just like I talked about. Oh, large warehouse fire? Look at this. Pull this fire. Pull this file. This file tells us everything we need to do in the city of Fall River if we have a large warehouse. And it's because Fall River has a lot of empty warehouses. Okay? Pawtucket has a lot of empty warehouses. Providence does. I don't know if Warwick does it. Or in situations, what cities are near a body of water? Foster and Gloucester is not near the ocean, but you've got Warwick, Cranston, Warren, Bristol, Plymouth, Portsmouth. All those are next to the water. So they have water rescue or emergency water situation plans, pre-planned for every possible incident they can think of. Okay? Preparedness also involves decisions and planning about the most likely nature disasters for the area. What's most likely going to happen farther inland than near the water. Your EMS agency should have written disaster plans that you may regularly trained to carry out. Train in those situations. So when the situation comes up, you might have already done a practice training 1 or 2 times over the past 4 years as compared to never training in it and you have no idea what you're supposed to do. Now you're going to learn on the fly. You may have the plans over here, but you don't know what they are until you read them or someone reads them to you. But if you've already practiced them once or twice, you have a general idea as to what you're supposed to be doing. That makes a big difference when the situation is actually happening. Scene size up. Make sure the scene is safe. What's going on? Evaluate the scene. Okay? Make an initial assessment and some preliminary decisions is driven by 3 basic questions. What do I have? What do I need? And what do I do? Okay, what do I have here? I have a tanker truck that's on its side leaking gasoline. Whoa, what do I need? I need lots of fire trucks and I need police to get these people out of here because if that tank explodes, it's going to be like a mini nuclear bomb going off. It's going to cover a wide area. Not the flame, but the heat is going to go well beyond the flame. And what do I do? Get on the radio and start asking for help. Establishing command. Command should be established early and by the most senior official. If you're the first person on the scene, you got a mass casualty, guess what? You're not only the first person on the scene, but you're the incident commander. You take control of the situation, you take charge. When somebody with more experience comes in, then you hand off IC to that person, and then you just work the patients, or you just work the situation. And then when somebody higher than that person comes up on scene, they transfer IC command to that person. Okay? Notification to other responders should go out as to what they're walking into. You want to tell them, hey guys, for all of you who are coming to the accident on 95 South in Providence, we got a 5,000 gallon gasoline tank that's on its side and it's leaking gas all over the place. You want to let them know so they know to stay back a couple hundred feet at least. Necessary resources should be requested. You know what resources you need? Police, fire, EMS, call it as early as possible. Communications, if possible, use face-to-face communications and limit radio traffic. Everybody wants to be a hero. Everybody wants to talk on the radio. Try to talk face-to-face. Okay? So a lot of guys will get on their radios just to hear themselves talk. And you don't want to have to deal with that. If you communicate via radio, do not use the 10 codes or signals, 10-4, 10-5, 10-36, because nobody knows what those are anymore. Some guys that do, but one town may use the 10 codes. You may have Providence or Warwick that use the 10 codes, but Providence's 10 codes might be different than Warwick's 10 codes. 10-4 means acknowledged in Providence maybe, but maybe 10-4 means where are you in Warwick? Okay, so it's different. So don't use code, just use normal language. The equipment must be reliable, durable, and field tested. Okay? Your bosses should be buying good equipment. Simple as that. Be sure there are backups in place. You have backup equipment in place in case the radio breaks? Good. Medical Incident Command is also known as the medical or EMS branch of the ICS. Primary roles are to triage the patients, start giving treatment, and transport of the patients. The medical branch of the Incident Command, okay? You got the triage, treatment, and transportation. You guys can take a look at it in your book. It gives the list of the tasks of each one. The triage supervisor is in charge of counting and prioritizing patient. This person goes first, this person goes second, this person's dead, there's no rush to get this person. They passed away. But this person we might be able to say, let's get them to the hospital right away. They're a priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. They're a green, they're a yellow, they're a red, they're a black tag. Okay, they ensure that every patient receives initial assessment of his or her condition and do not begin treatment until all patients have been triaged. You got to find out what you got. You got to look at every single patient, figure out who's the worst off, who's the least worst off, assign them a priority, then you start treating the patients. Okay? Treatment supervisor locates and sets up treatment area with a tier for each priority patient, ensures that secondary triage is performed and that adequate patient care is given, assists with moving the patients to the transport area, and then the transport supervisor coordinates the transportation and distribution of patients to the appropriate receiving hospitals. They keep track. Joe Smith went with Providence Rescue 2 with John Thomas and Brian Powers as EMTs, and they took him to Rhode Island Hospital. Okay? That way, when you get family members calling the state saying, hey, where's my husband? What's your husband's name? My husband's name is John Thomas. Oh, okay, he went with Providence Rescue 2 with these 2 EMTs. He was taken to Rhode Island Hospital, and the family can go to Rhode Island Hospital and check on their loved ones. Okay? Documents and tracks the number of transport vehicles, patients transported, and the facility's destination. The staging supervisor should be assigned when scenes require a multi-vehicle or multi-agency response. Emergencies must have permission to enter the scene and only drive in the directed areas. So you got to tell the staging supervisor says, okay, we're going to set up all the trucks, all the emergency vehicles in this massive parking lot over here. The fire trucks go in the north end, emergency vehicles go in the middle, police go in the south, and the food trucks are going to go in the back to provide food for everybody. Okay? So that's what they're going to do. And the staging area should be established away from the scene. You have the plane crash here, you're not going to put the staging area here, you're going to staging area way over here. And then they come from here, they're told where to go here, they go there, they grab the patient, then they go over here to the treatment area, transport area. Okay? Physicians on scene make difficult triage decisions. They provide secondary triage decisions in the treatment area, provide on-scene medical direction for EMTs, and they provide care in the treatment sector as appropriate. So doctors will show up on scene, and they will be a doctor, and they're going to help everybody out. They're going to do their thing. Rehabilitation supervisors establish an area that provides protection from the elements and situation. Rehabilitation is where a responder's needs for rest, fluids, flood, and protection from these elements are met. Monitors responders for signs of stress. Police, fire, EMS, a first responder, you're on scene, it's going to be stressful. You may either be there for an hour, you may be there for 8 or 10 hours. You need a place to de-stress. You need a place to decompress. You need to go someplace quiet that's got food, people to talk to if you need to, because the stress level is getting to you and you're going to have a breakdown. Sometimes all you need is to talk to somebody, get it over with, and you're ready to go back to work. The rehabilitation supervisors and their people are there for the first responders to take care of us, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And if we're not fit to go back to duty, then they tell our bosses and we go home. Extrication and special rescue determines the type of equipment and resources needed for the situation. Big MVA, airplane crash, lots of trucks involved, whatever it is. Needed extra equipment, heavy duty equipment to help get people out. The extrication and special rescue people, they make those decisions, what equipment's used, how and when. Okay? The morgue supervisor. Need I say more? Unfortunately, for those people who pass away in a mass casualty, we need to put their bodies somewhere, cold, under refrigeration, so we can do autopsies on them, so the bodies can be preserved, so they can be taken to the funeral home and buried with respect for the family, with the family. And the morgue supervisor sets up a large refrigeration unit where we keep the bodies of those who've passed away, unfortunately. Mass casualty incident involves 3 or more patients, places great demand on the EMS system, and has the potential to produce multiple casualties. All systems have different protocols for when to declare an MCI and initiate the incident command system. You and your team cannot treat and transport all injured patients at the same time. Never leave the scene with patients if there are still other patients who are sick and wounded. You can't leave them alone. You can't say, well, we'll leave now, then the next EMS crew will come and take care of them. You can't do that. Everything's got to be coordinated. If there are any multiple patients and not enough resources to handle them without abandoning your victims, you should 1, declare an MCI, 2, request additional resources, and 3, initiate the ICS and triage procedures. Triage. Triage means to sort. You go to the grocery store, you come home with 5 bags of groceries, you start breaking everything down. My soups are here, my snacks are here, my chips, my beverages, my frozen food, my non-frozen food, my fruits, my vegetable. You're triaging your groceries. That's what you do with the human beings in a large. You triage patients. Who needs what? What's wrong with this person? Respiratory goes over here. Cardiac goes over here. Broken bones go over here. Psych goes over here. You're triaging your patients. And you determine, well, this person with a psych issue, they're more of a danger to themselves than this Joe over here. Or this person with a respiratory issue, they need to go to the hospital now. This other person, a little bit of respiratory issue, but it's not a life threat. Okay? Triage is done in the field where you find the patient. Secondary triage are done when the patients are brought to the treatment center. That's when you have the doctors and the extra EMTs, and you do a second triage of the patient, and you start to begin treatment of the patient. 4 common categories give the order of treatment and transport: red, yellow, green, and black. Red means immediate. They need to leave. They need to go to the hospital now. Yellow means delayed. They can wait a couple of minutes. They can wait 10 or 15 minutes, but the red needs to go now. Green, sometimes called your walking wounded. They're minor or minimal injuries. They're okay. There's no life threats. We can take our time with these people, okay? And then black, which is expendant. They're likely to die. They're not going to make it to the hospital, or they've already passed away. And that's probably one of the hardest decisions to make. Someone who's still alive, but you're going to pick this person over that person because this person you strongly suspect they're going to die within a couple of minutes, or they won't survive the transport to the hospital. That's a really tough decision to make. I hope I never have to do it, but hopefully that the doctors on scene, the doctors will be doing the triage once they get there, and they'll take over that decision because they have by far much more experience and education than we do. But if you have to make the decision, then you do the best you possibly can. Okay? You can take a look at the triage priorities. Usually these are tags that we tie to the person's toe or we tie to their coat. You attach it to their body or to their person where it's very visible to everybody else, and the colors are very bright and they're very big on the tags. So you can look across the room, you can see who the yellow, red, blacks are and the greens. Okay? Tagging patients early assists in tracking them and can help keep an accurate record of their condition and how many people. The tag should be waterproof, easily readable, and color-coded. Okay? START triage stands for simple triage and rapid treatment. First step is to call out to patients and direct them to an easily identifiable landmark. So your green patients are your walking wounded. Okay, can anybody who can walk by themselves or walk with assistance, can you please walk over to this corner of the field and have them all walk over? Okay? Second step is directed toward non-walking patients. assess the respiratory rate, the hemodynamic status, are they bleeding or not, and the neurologic status. Okay, jumpstart triage for pediatric patients intended for use in children younger than 8 years of age or who appear to be less than 100 pounds. Begin by identifying the walking wounded. Several differences within the respiratory status assessment compared with START. Assess the approximate rate of respirations, hemodynamic status, and neurologic status. Basically, are they breathing, are they bleeding? Life threats. Triage special considerations. Patients who are hysterical and disruptive to rescue efforts may need to be handled as an immediate priority. Freaking out, you can't get them under control, they're going to make the situation worse, get them out of there. Simple as that. You don't need more stress. A responder who becomes sick or injured during the rescue effort should be handled as an immediate priority. If a first responder gets hurt, they are treated as a priority. Remember the old saying, who's the most important person on scene? The rescuer. Not the patient, the rescuer. The rescuers are there to help the patients. If the rescuer gets injured, then there's nobody there to help the patients. So if a rescuer gets hurt, they're treated as a priority patient. Identify patients as contaminated or non-contaminated. If they're contaminated with a chemical or something, have the hazmat take care of them. They need to be decontaminated before you can begin treatment. Because if you start treatment on a contaminated patient, then the person treating the patient now becomes contaminated. Now you have two people contaminated instead of just one. Destination decisions, who goes where and who takes them. Okay? Disaster management is a widespread event, disrupts the functions and resources of the community, threatens lives and properties. Some disasters may not involve personal injuries, but many disasters, floods, fires, hurricanes, can result in widespread injuries. So a disaster is a disaster. Simple as that. A tornado, a tsunami, a massive earthquake, forest fire. Okay. Hazardous materials. You guys need to pay attention to this very carefully because there's hazardous materials all over the place, especially on the roads. Tanker trucks carrying liquids of unknown origin. You can figure it out by looking at the placards on the container and use the identifying yellow book that you have in your ambulance or your fire truck or your police car. It'll tell you what that truck is carrying. Okay, rushing into unsafe scenes can be catastrophic, as in it'll kill you. What if a tanker truck is involved in an accident and it's spilling liquid on the ground? You have no idea what it is. You go rushing up into it, and it's sulfuric acid, and you get downwind from it, and you inhale this nice big whiff of sulfuric acid right into your lungs. Guess what? You're almost dead. Okay, whereas if you would have taken your time, stayed in your truck, looked at the binoculars, looked at the placards, looked in your book, and figured out what it was. Ooh, that's sulfuric acid. I'm not going anywhere near that. You'd still be alive. You'd be going home and see your family that night. But guess what? You were a dummy, and you rushed into a situation, you rushed into a scene before you knew what was going on, and you got yourself killed. And it happens all the time, unfortunately, in this country and in other countries. Make sure the scene is safe. Okay? Making sure it's safe does not mean you running into it. It means you taking a minute, figuring out what's going on, and using the resources that are given to you to determine whether the scene is safe. And those resources are that little yellow book that tells you what all the poisons and chemicals are that mankind has ever made. And it's transported on U.S. roads. And you can look at the placards that it tells you by the color and the number and the description and the icons that are on them what that item is and whether it's dangerous or not. Okay? If overcome, you will be unable to assist your patients or yourself. Requiring emergency care yourself, you will further strain the system. You're part of the system that's supposed to resolve the problem. You're not supposed to be part of the problem by becoming a patient. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Take care of you and your partner. Okay. Areas of training or experience: the ability to recognize the presence of a hazardous substance, the ability to identify the hazardous substance if possible, an understanding of the role of the first responder awareness individually, and the ability to determine the need for additional resources and notify the communication system. Hey, you know what? I got a tanker truck over here in 95 South in Warwick near exit 10. It's got sulfuric acid that's pouring into the road. We need help. Okay? Hazardous material poses an unreasonable risk to damage. or recognizing a hazardous material. So hazardous material is something that poses an unreasonable risk or damage or injury if it was not properly controlled during handling, storage, manufacturing, processing, packaging, or disposed of and transported correctly. You need time to take a look at the whole scene. Take your time, stand back, do a 360 walk around the situation. Identify visually, what do you see that can be a critical danger to other people on scene, to other first responders. Okay? Hazardous materials may be involved in any of the following situations. A truck or train crashes in which a substance is leaking from the tanker truck or the tanker car. A leak, fire, or other emergency at an industrial plant, refinery, or other complex, or a leak or a rupture of an underground natural gas pipe. Deterioration of underground fuel tanks and seepage of oil or gasoline into the ground, the buildup of methane or other byproducts of waste composition in sewers, and a motor vehicle crash resulting in a ruptured fuel tank. And there's gas all over the place. And you get Mr. Joe Smith come up smoking a cigarette. Oh, wow, man, what's this? This looks really cool. I'm done smoking this cigarette. Plops on the ground. Now you got a fire. People are out there, they don't think, and they actually do that stuff by accident. Occupancy and location. A wide variety of chemicals are stored in a wide range of locations. And your senses. The senses that can be safely used are those of sound and light and smell and common sense. Using any of your senses that bring you in the proximity to the chemical should be done with caution or should be avoided completely. Containers, lots of different types of containers out there. A container is any vessel or receptacle that holds a material. Often the container type, size, material, or construction provided important clues about the nature of the substance inside. Two categories, bulk and non-bulk. Okay? They're not going to transport gasoline in a plastic container. They're going to transport gasoline in a metal container because gasoline would deteriorate the plastic container over time. Let's see. And then the size of the container volume. Bulk storage containers are found in buildings that need to store large quantities of a particular chemical. These containers are often surrounded by a secondary containment system and includes large volume horizontal tanks, totes, and intermodule tanks. You know when you look at them, you're like, whoa, that must be some serious stuff. It'd be that. You know the container is designed to hold some pretty nasty stuff. You can tell just by looking at them sometimes. Okay? You can have round containers, square containers, oblong containers. They're all different. Okay? Take a look at the placards. Label, placards, and other markings are used on buildings, packages, boxes, and containers. Marking systems indicate the presence of a hazardous material from a safe distance and provide clues about what the substance is. Placards are diamond-shaped indicators. Labels are smaller versions of placards. So if you look at a truck, they're large, diamond-shaped, and they're red, white, yellow, black and white, red and white, red, white, and black. You see them on all tanker trucks. Take a look at your book. Familiarize yourself with the Department of Transportation marking system. That's got all the different placards: orange, green, red, yellow, white, black. You know what the radioactive sign looks like? It's yellow. It's got those three black things on it. That's radioactive. That's a placard. Okay. Oxygen, whenever something's carrying oxygen tanks, oxygen is always green. Okay. Red is always fire, flammable. You got explosives. You got a bunch of different types. You just have to familiarize yourself with it. Okay, the DOT system, the DOT, Department of Transportation System, does not require that all chemical shipments be marked. In most cases, the packaging or cargo tank must contain a certain amount of hazardous material before a placard must be required. Some chemicals are so hazardous that shipping any amount requires the use of labels or placards. There's a big orange book. I think the last one was published in 2012. It's called the Emergency Response Guidebook. It offers a certain amount of guidance for the responders operating in a hazmat incident. It's updated every 3 to 4 years. Okay. And it provides information on approximately 4,000 chemicals. Something called MSDS sheets, but material safety data sheets. Common source information about a particular chemical, provides basic information about the chemical makeup of the substance, the potential hazards it presents, the appropriate first aid in the event of an exposure, and other pertinent data for safe handling. The MSDS sheet should be provided by the company that is purchasing the chemical. Prime example, Stop and Shop buys a case of Windex, those spray bottles, a window cleaner. Whoever they buy it from, they have to provide Stop and Shop with an MSDS sheet for the chemical in the Windex. It tells you how much water is in it, alcohol, coloring chemical, anything that is in that bottle, anything other than oxygen has to be on this MSDS sheet. It lists what the chemical is, how much, what the chemical is made out of, and how do you treat each exposure to those chemicals. Whether it's ingested, splashed in the face, in the eyes, it tells you everything you need about it. And it gives the, also has the poison control center number on it. There's a company out there called the Chemical Transportation Emergency Center, ChemTRIC. ChemTRIC is operated by the American Chemistry Council. It serves as an individual technical information resource for first responders of all disciplines who are called upon to respond to chemical incidents. If you need to know about the chemical, you contact ChemTRIC. Identification. Despite the availability of resources, identification may still be difficult. The tanker truck is on fire, you can't see the placards because they've melted away. Presence of the following may help. Is there a visible cloud or strange-looking colored smoke from the escaping substance? Leak or spill from a tank, container truck, or railroad car? Usually strong, noxious, harsh odor in the area. If you see or smell any of those, it's probably a bad chemical. Call ChemTRIC. If any sign suggested that a hazmat incident has occurred, stop at a safe distance or get out of there and move back to a safe distance and park upwind or uphill from that. Okay? Call the hazmat team. Do not enter the scene until you are told to and you have all the necessary safety equipment. You can use the ambulances or the fire truck's public address system, the speaker, to alert individuals in the scene to get them out of there. You can also establish cold zones, a hot zone, a cold zone. A hot zone is the danger zone, or the cold zone is where you can be without danger of being exposed to the dangers of that product. Okay, I'm sorry, you got the hot zone, the warm zone, and then the cold zone. The hot zone is the hazardous material zone. The warm zone is known as the decontamination zone. Okay, and then the cold zone is where the incident commander, the incident post, and all the firefighters and first responders are. So you got the hot zone, warm zone, and cold zone. Let's see, role of the EMT, your job is to triage, treatment, transport, and rehabilitation of the patient. Let's see what else. You get a chance to review tables 39.2. It tells you the level of hazardous materials. You have 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it tells you how hazardous it is and what type of protective equipment is needed. Make sure that you have your PPE. Make sure that you have your PPE with you at all times. Okay? You have a level A, a level B, a level C, and a level D that you can use. If I can find this. A level A suit is for the most hazardous situation. It requires fully encapsulated chemical-resistant protective clothing that provides full body protection as well as a scuba and special sealed equipment. So basically, you got a scuba tank, you got a self-contained breathing apparatus on your back, and then you're in this alien-looking suit with this big plastic thing in front of your face so you can see. You see those in movies. Level B requires non-capsulated protective clothing or clothing that is designed to protect against a particular hazard. Requires breathing devices that contain their own air supply, such as scuba and eye protection. Level C requires the use of a non-permeable clothing and eye protection face masks that filter all inhaled outside air. And a level D requires a work uniform such as coveralls that affords minimal protection. Your uniform is a level D. Okay? All levels require the use of gloves. And you can take a look at your book, you can see the level A, B, C, and D. D, overalls. C, you can see that white suit, covers the face, got a respirator and a hat. Okay? Caring for patients, it is practical only to provide the simplest assessment and essential care in the hazardous zone and the decontamination area because of the dangers, the time constraints, and the bulky protective gear. Your care of patients must address the following 2 issues. Any trauma that has resulted from other related mechanisms such as a vehicle collision, fire, or explosion, and the injury and harm that have resulted from exposure to the toxic hazardous material. Most serious injuries and deaths from hazardous materials result from airway and breathing problems. In some cases, the hazmat team may find patients who need immediate treatment before the decontamination area has been set up. Okay? And that is it. Okay, quick review of those 2 chapters. That is done. Hope you guys understand incident command. It's basically a huge pecking order, and it's basically that large pecking order is designed to coordinate and organize all the resources that are required in a mass casualty situation. It may be a mass casualty of you've got 7 people, or maybe a mass casualty where you have 100 people, a train derailment, and there's like 160 people, or there's a plane crash and there's 300 people on the plane, 160 of them survive. Okay, mass casualty means you need more. You have more patients than your resources can handle, and it's usually 3 or more patients. Okay. With that said, that's the end of my lecture. Hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe. Stay home. Stay away from crowds. Take care of yourselves. We will get through this. It'll take time, but it came on so quickly. Nobody was prepared for it. I don't care what the politicians say. Nobody was prepared for this. So stay safe. Take care of yourselves. You guys have a good week. Bye-bye.